right. Happy Tuesday as I'm recording this. I'm still hard at work or hardly working. I don't know. We shall see. But here's the map. I've added a bunch of stuff to it. Not really added to it, just I guess fleshing it out, maybe, or maybe fleshing out is not even the right word. I've added labels. That's probably the best thing. I've added labels, and the other thing I'm I'm considering is getting rid of the hex numbers. Because I think what I'm going to end up doing is, which is something I really appreciate on other maps, is having basically going to a section of the map and having a little bit of that map portion. So what I'm thinking is going to happen is that I've named each one of the greater hexes now has a name. So if we're looking at the larger hexes, we now have Iron Sink, Silvermere, the Gold, the Low Pass, South Bastion, Eastfeld, and the Westfeld. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break these down into sections, and then each section will show then this portion of the map. I haven't quite figured out how to do that the best way, since this isn't a flat image. All this stuff is layered in here in the document itself. So I'll have to figure out how to cut everything up, or I think the easiest way to do it, and my expertise, well, I don't have any expertise, but I'm certainly not super well versed in the best way to handle these, whether I just essentially, I'm thinking what I'll do is I'll just make a copy of this whole thing and then just mask down to the thing I want to show, and then do things like have the futz with that, so I suppose I could just make it as one, make it an image and then cut it. I don't know, but all this stuff is native inside of the layout application. So I'm not dealing with a flat object, which in some ways would make it easier if I was just going to grab pieces, because I could simply just cut out a piece or mask it in the application, or bring the whole thing in here as a flat image and then mask it in here. But since all these, the benefit of these things, I can move all this text around, I can rename it, everything within, what is this, Publisher. But the downside of that is, that there are some manipulations that are easier if it was just a flat image that I don't have. The other thing I did was I sort of inspired, I guess, by the preview of the Mary Mushman's hex crawl. I turned my roads to red. I thought that was a nice detail. I don't know if I'm going to put the travel times. That might be something I put. I think the travel times was another interesting bit. I might do that, but maybe when I blow these up into bigger bits, because I am cognizant of the fact that these maps can get really busy. Really busy. If you want to see, I can pull up and show where is the Mighty Mushman. I believe it was. Here we go. Go to friend of the channel. Brian Smith posted a link to it. We go when we open it up. We can scroll down. This is theirs. And I actually kind of think this is pretty darn. Whoops. Can I open this? Did that work? I feel like this could be kind of really. You see, they did. See, you know what? I was funny because I thought they did in my brain, I just looked at this kind of briefly last night. In my brain, I thought they did the roads in red. They did the places in red and the roads are in black. But I kind of like having the roads in red because I have a lot of black and white. This to me is kind of is still, I think, just the nature of the illustrations, which are beautiful. But I think it's kind of, I think it could be kind of busy also. But, let me see. Now we switch back to what I'm doing. Much more simplified things, but start adding the names of the places, and I put an overlay with some of the major areas, ranges. So I named these mountains the high crests and the low crests, and then I have the Tower Downs down here and the Alder Downs going across here. Start throwing in names, and it just gets to be a lot, and I don't want it to get to be too much. I'm wondering, I have these fortresses or fortifications or strongholds I need to name, and I'm wondering whether I should name them here or save them. I kind of think it's important. I think they're important enough to name, but I don't know. I got to come up with names, and then I got to see how it looks. So that's kind of where I am. And then I was thinking probably at some stage I'm going to ditch the numbers because we get rid of the numbers. I need the numbers. I kind of need the numbers right now because where is it? Because I used the numbering for everything. So if I get rid of the numbers, I don't know where anything is, but that adds a lot more business to it. Whereas it looks kind of nice and clean. Kind of nice and clean without them. But that'll be probably at the end, or maybe when I blow these up, I'll have numbering in there for the numbers if I'm not labeling everything. Unknown so far. But I really like the way the map looks, particularly without the numbers. I am certainly not as gifted a cartographer as whoever's doing the Mushmen ones. But by the same token, I do find these things can be a little bit complicated to read just to kind of get the drift of what's happening in there, as beautiful as it is. So I'm okay. I really like the legibility here of just being able to quickly spot that these are mountains versus hills versus whatever. But, you know, busyness is the enemy. I want to convey as much information as possible, but I don't want it to get to the point where it's super difficult to get said information. Here's in Homer says, having the contrast of the roads and the different styles of the place names makes it easier to read. Okay, cool. I mean, the names are super bold, or the names of the place, rather the cities, the kind of city names are pretty are bold. So I definitely want them to be easy to read. And in the names of the areas, hopefully, I think the font is pretty readable. I'm debating whether to change the font to something that's maybe not as thematic, but is readable. But I feel like it's readable. You know, sometimes if you fall in love with a font and you love it, but somebody else reads later, and I certainly have been on the side when a reader's coming in, and I'm thinking, oh gosh, I can't quite tell what that means. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Now, the other thing that I did, and I'll read it, is I kind of wrote out a sort of backstory. Well, there you have it here as backstory for the place, because I know folks have been asking, and I've been pondering things and working on things. So here's this backstory that I came up with. This is something that would be kind of at the front of the material, and the idea here is that it gives a bit of just an overview, but also a little bit of a sort of the backdrop and a bit of the, I guess I'll just read it, and then you can, if there's any comments, you can give me the comments. Frederick says, only 3 likes. Where is everyone? Good question. Where is everybody? It's only a weekday in the middle of the day. Yeah, U.S. Eastern Time weekday. What could people possibly be doing besides watching and listening to this? Okay. This is the valley as it looks today. 7 petty queendoms straddle the river Goldenrood. They huddle against the thighs of the cold rushing waters in uneasy peace with each other and with the land around them. The land looms over them. There are mountains on 3 sides. Wood-covered hill lands ripple outward from those heights like waves moving slowly but surely to engulf the queendoms, or else finally push them into the river to drown. Once, lions ruled here. First the animals, and later the humans who took the lions as their symbol. Their king they called the lion. For a time, the lions spread. They pushed back the lions and beasts and other creatures. They ruled over the lands that they subjugated, founded towns, built castles, raised walls. They could never rid themselves of their fear of the mountains and the wild places, but they made the crease of the valley strong for themselves, and the river ran through it. To some this is legend, to others it is fact, but what is true is yours to decide. There was once a lion, the last lion, and his queen gave birth to twin sons, 2 firstborn. As was customary, to each of these sons was given a house and a sigil. One was named for the bear, and the other named for the boar. Bear and boar grew up strong. They were fierce in battle. They were arrogant and prideful. Each coveted the lion throne, and the lion loved them dearly. He could not choose between them. Strong points protected the realm of the lion from without, but not from within. The sorcerer giant Belkari insinuated himself, first into the lion's court and then into the ears of bear and boar. Promises were whispered. Treasons were woven like tapestry threads. War came to the lion, not from the shadows of height or hill, but from his own halls. Yet for love of their father, neither bear nor boar could completely forsake the lion. Belkari's plots were, at the last, exposed. Blood was spilled, walls were tumbled, halls were burned. At great cost, the lion prevailed. The giant fled, chased by bear and boar until they were, all three, swallowed up by the wilds beyond the walls and lost. The lion was mortally wounded. With his last breath, he bequeathed the 7 cities of his realm to his 7 surviving daughters. 1 realm under 1 lion were now 7 realms under 7 lionesses. So it has remained. If half-forgotten tales are believed, what was begun in those times is yet unfinished. In a darkness deeper than the clefts of the mountains, the giant Belkari broods in exile, plotting new plans, hiding. Bear and boar seek him still. Look and see their shadows swiftly stalking across the moonlit hillsides. Bend your ear and heed their horn calls blowing down from the high peaks. A final reckoning, long ago promised in curse and blood, awaits giant, bear, and boar, and a lion reborn will come. So that's what I've got as far as the backstory. That is the backstory. And I need to clean it up a bit. Let's see. Frederick says I snuck in a video last night. It was a stream, Frederick. But yes, I did sneak in a stream. It was good. It was a conversation with the blogger Prismatic Wasteland, who is kind of making the rounds. I think his supplement is up for an inning. He's trying to drum up support, which is all good. But it was a fun conversation talking about it's called Barkeep on the Borderlands, a supplement, and we talked about Keep on the Borderlands and some other stuff. It was a good chat. I've read some of his blog stuff on the Feedback Fridays and Roundup, so it was good to talk to the person behind the blog, so to speak. Hey, Magnus. Hey, Enki. Let's see. Okay, there's no particular software. So Enki asks, what software am I using to do the map? This map, it's all this is all custom. If you go back and watch some of the other streams, I've done all of this in a combination of the Affinity. Well, basically within the Affinity software suite. That is to say, publisher and designer by Affinity. The icons are all custom. I mean, I just created them. And if you go back and you can, not that I necessarily would suggest going back and watching a bunch of streams just to see it, but all these icons I just made in the stream, I think almost all of them just on the spot. I made the hex. I made some hexes and I put it together to create the hex map. Basically, it's all custom, I guess. It's custom in vector editing, vector software. So basically like Illustrator, but not by Adobe. And this is some kind of Mandarin orange spritzer for the working man. Ryan Smith saying it's dense. Magnus says the lore is dope. Oh, thanks. Frederick says it sounds like the founding of Rome. Are we going to have centurions? No centurions. It's kind of, I think it's going to sound like a lot of things because it's not particularly original. There is some kind of Rome founding, Romulus and Remus, such things. Though in this case, it's almost like a transition, right? Because the two kids didn't found Rome, but it causes transition from, I guess, a patriarchy to a matriarchy, just out of sheer necessity by the fact that they're 2 sons, they were twins, the king couldn't choose between them, and when it all came down, things fell apart. The 2 sons were gone, and all there were left were the girls, and so the girls got to inherit, and it kind of changed it up, and so it's been in this female ruled valley ever since. Brian Smith says it's Cromulus and Cremus. The lore sounds appropriately mythical. Well, that's the idea. And I think the idea here too, hopefully comes across is that I'm going to be, this is all being laid out for you, but you don't need to take it. If you want to come up with something else, and this is just legend. This could all just be what they say, and that nothing's going on, nothing's going on anywhere, or it could be it could be exactly what's happening. I wanted to sort of leave it a little bit up to you as the GM as to how much of this is story, how much of it's true. Obviously, you're gonna have, I think most folks feel like you're gonna do what they want with it anyway, but I'm wanting to make sure to give almost explicitly give permission as to, hey, if this sounds cool, run with it. If it doesn't sound cool, then it's just a tale. I mean, you could even just forget about it at all. So that is that. And then I did this. I don't know if I like it yet, but I put the storm cloud because this is where I had this concept that where the giant has been holding up all this time, trapped or however it is in this mountain here over by the Silvermere, which we established when we were doing our hexes. But so I put this storm cloud. Well, I wanted to be kind of a thunderhead. I don't know if it tracks. I don't know, I don't know if it looks thunderheadish, but if you're wondering like what this crumpled chef's hat looking thing is on top of this one mountain, that's what it is, because that's where and I was going to name it appropriately, give it some kind of thunderhead mountain or something, because that's where this storm cloud has been for a long time now. And the reason why is as I imagine that in sort of Mordor like, in a sense, that at some point the giants' power growing, that this storm might spread, right? It'll become this kind of reminder where you can just see there are storm clouds always over Thunder Mountain. Thunder Mountain sounds like that's already a thing. Isn't there a Disney ride, Thunder Mountain? Or is that something else? Thunder Road? I don't know. Frederick thought it was a great air elemental. Well, that kind of works just as well. If you got air or cloud or something of that nature, then that works. I could maybe put a lightning bolt. I don't know if that would actually make a difference. I'm trying not to clutter things up too much. So, it is what it is. But there's the story. There are the places. I also came up with these names for the hills, and I will confess that I was looking at, I think I mentioned this before. There's an app I use on my phone. It's a chat-based app, AI. I don't know if you can use it for. I don't use it. I'm not asking it for things like, write my story for me, but I will ask it for things that I can, essentially, I would search in search engines. And it does a great job of compiling search results and putting it into a human readable form, and then giving me the sources and things so I can read more. So I ask it a lot about word etymologies and word meanings. And I'll ask it something like, hey, what are some famous mountains and what do their names mean? You'll get some neat stuff. So I actually asked it, I think, that question, and it turns out, I guess, Andes. I want to say the Andes means in its native language, or the language that it was named in, like high crests or the great crests or something like that, which I thought was really cool. I was like, oh, that's really neat. I like that. So I named these. I named these after the Andes. Oh, Brian Smith found an interesting word association webpage. Share it, please, Brian Smith. If not, if Nightbot doesn't allow you, to throw it in the forums, because those things are awesome. But it's called Perplexity is the name of the app. It's free, and it's just a great. I just use it instead of me running multiple searches or running to multiple pages to check like Edom Online and something else and WordNick. And basically this, I can ask it one thing and it goes to all those sources, puts it in a nice human readable context, but it's all footnoted so that when it breaks down these different things, it will give me the sources. So then if I'm more curious, or it didn't give me something I wanted or whatever, then I can just kind of go to its sources and go. So I really like that. I like that a lot. I find it helpful because, and I've mentioned this before, I don't want to use AI to write for me. This is mine. Yeah, this is my work, my thought. I want all my thought bent on it, not some amalgamation of whatever. But if it can help me, if I can get some help with doing some of the research kind of stuff, then I'm all for it. I mentioned the Song of the Mountains that we worked on last time. All right, Brian Spiceri. Awesome. Well, let me go pull it up. Let's go see that. Let us embrace it last. So that's that. All right, word association. All right, let's see what this brings us. The word associations network. All right. Why am I was listening to a video before, so I had headphones on, but I'm realizing I don't need them. I'm not listening to anything anymore. Let's see. Noun, originality, vigor, O-U-R, vigor, O-R, sweetness, fragrance, complexion. Okay, cool. So I need some things. I'm wondering whether I should name all the mountains, at least the symbolic mountains. I kind of would like to, but it probably would be too much on this map. But I think that in real life, right, every mountain, we don't necessarily know it, but you go somewhere where they live in the mountains, and all the mountains have names, right? I don't know all the names of the Rocky Mountains, but I presume that each one of the peaks in the Rocky Mountains has names, much like each of the Himalayas has a name, not just Mount Everest. But maybe I'll save that for the more detailed view. This, I think, is going to be very worthwhile, and it's at wordassociations.net. Is there any word associations that I need right now? Where did I have the Song of the Mountains? Did I put something in here? I need to go back and put. We need to talk about. There we go. Yeah, the mountain song. All right. So I did. Right. So I remember that because somewhere I have these driver ants, and I think. Oh, there it is. The Four Wizards. Right. The Song of the Mountains. Right. All right. I'm kind of getting up to speed. But we haven't really determined what the Song of the Mountains is. I mean, we kind of have. Do we have effects? Let's see. So what? Well, you know what? Let's put in song. What are some good? What if we put in some word associations for song and search it up? Eurovision. No. Airplay. Come on. McCartney. Boy, it really is word association. Noun. These are not links. I see it's just from Wiktionary. All right. Well, let's go to the next page. Yeah, Brian Smith says if there's even a part of a mountain that looks vaguely like something, it gets a nickname. Yeah, I agree. And those can also be great things, I think, for inspirationally. If you call something Murder Mountain, if it comes up in the game and the players end up going there or asking somebody about it, if I may not know anything about it, but you calling it Murder Mountain, that'll get my mind running a bit. Elton. Wow, it really is. Boy, it's really some association. Oh, lament. Lament is interesting. Amor, reprise, carry. Oh yeah, I see. Boy, they really are ska. Yes, ska. Oh, here's a homebrew says not all the Rockies have many names because they're just too many. See, I wonder, and I totally believe you, but I wonder if that the locals have names, even if those names haven't been codified in the official list of Rocky Mountains. Assuming there were folks living around there, assuming they had names, or maybe the natives had names for them. But maybe there are some. There's just so many that no one's close enough to name them. But I think even then, given that, say in this map, these are abstractions, so that each one of these would be a major peak, and there'd be no end of minor peaks down in here. I think that naming them, I mean, it's a lot. How many do I got to name here? I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3. Well, count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So I got 23 mountains to name. Come up with your own number system that's really cool number names, and that's just some of the mountains. Yeah, so I guess there's 22, which is it's not too bad. I think that's doable. And probably not here. Probably not in this map, because they would just get too many. But Mount Primus, Mount Secundus, yeah, I think I would. I think my whatever my pseudo Latin would be. Maybe easier if I just went Pig Latin. Mount Erstfey, Mount Ekensay, Mount Herdtay, Orthfey, no, Orthfey, Ithfey, Ixthsay. I'll come up with some names. I think you're putting something together. Hey, Ian, I think you're we're trying to put something together here. I think having some mountain names, not too much to ask, but I will do this. I'm just going to put the numbering in here. Whoops. Maybe I'll get some inspiration. Maybe it'll just start with, I don't want to spend all stream writing down numbers. I'll just start with 10. Stop doing that. Thank you. Oh, I put a return, wrong kind of return in. There we go. All right, so it says, would be fun to think about what society in this area would have a list of all the mountain names. Then when you've named them, you have an in-world map of sorts. Yeah, and I think it's certainly a way to give directions or key. Yeah, maybe map is probably not the right word, but yes, kind of a key. I would agree. Actually, here's our homework mentions Bear's Claw and Boar's Tusk. Those are actually the name Tusk and Claw I actually are the names of the magic weapons that the two sons had, that they were able to badly wound the giant with their, it's not known. It's not included in that backstory because nobody knows. Nobody knows what happened to them. They chased the giant. The giant fled. They were chased, and then they all disappeared. But in the story, they were here at Leoden. They ran, and if somewhere the chase was on, and then it ended up coming to a conclusion on Thunder Mountain or Thunder Peak or whatever, Storm Peak or something like that, Thor's Head. Name the mountains after subscribers. Too many subscribers, not enough mountains. Maybe I can do patrons and channel members can do some naming. The only thing is, and I feel it's one of those things like maybe I could do some. I'll have to figure it out. How to do it. It would be good. It would be a fun exercise, but I don't want the names. I feel like I need some kind of control mechanism on the names. My cat is meowing at me from the door, but he can come in. It's like he wants me to leave, but I can't leave, Bruce. Can't leave. But the claw and tusk were the name of their. Tusk was a sword, and claw was as an axe. So I have those names already for these magic weapons of the two sons, who are also lost. Maybe not here, maybe somewhere here, maybe in this cave. There's it'll be interesting to think about kind of what happened, but that's something that nobody knows. That is only you would have to have some kind of magical means to surmise what happened. That includes kind of the cursing, so that the sons disappeared, and nobody knows that they were cursed into becoming, because that was the whole, in terms of the meta part of it, where the story came from was we rolled up werebears and wereboars for some creatures that were layering, and we were trying to think about, well, how do we end up, what are we doing with werebears and wereboars? And that was the genesis of this whole story. So, but it's something that nobody knows, or at least not folks. Not if I don't know if there's any of these wizards may have some extra information that they may be able to glean, but it's not in the record books. Nobody knows that whenever they chased the giant down and struck him blows that have left him recovering for however many years have passed, that one, the giant cursed them into those forms, and then second, that either it happened where the thunderhead or the giant kind of crawled his way back to the to this point, or this happened here and the brothers scattered in fear and panic as they were transforming, and then one of them ended up down here, I think, somewhere, and the other one ended up not that far away, actually. I think either over here, maybe it's I don't remember exactly where it is, but it's not that far. I wonder. So we need, let's go to that site again. What do we get for thunder? Like, well, hold on, look, I kind of like lament. I need some song. Well, no, I'll go with thunder. Let's go to thunder. See what we get. What is the etymology of thunder? Anyway, Terrence says thunder bucket. It's a caldera. Thunder bucket. Well, that's I'm going to ask, what is the etymology of thunder? That's another good question. Whoops, not thunder. We get some multiple angles here. So what do we got on? Did I do this search correctly? Okay, so we have hoof. That's interesting. Like the thundering of hooves, lightning, roar, hoof, Jove by Jove, kind of Zeus, torrent, applause. We do get Zeus. Regular, tempest, cannon, gallop, volley, growl, roaring, cataract. What does cataract have to do? Cataract is a water spout. Cataract, a large waterfall. Okay. So it must be from the sound of the waterfall. Bolt, cloud, tumult, thunderstorm, pounding. Is it pounding? Just, okay, not pounding rain, but just pounding, bellow, echo, clap, storm, wrath, shower. And then we get, in terms of etymology of thunder, the word thunder has an Old English origin. We traced back to Proto-Germanic and Proto-Indo-European roots. Here are some of the key points. Old English for thunder is thunor or thunrian, which is, I don't know exactly how you're supposed to pronounce it. If you're familiar, if you ever looked at this kind of Old English stuff, it's that letter that looks like a P and a B merged with each other. So it has the top stem of a B and the bottom stem of a P and then the circle, if that makes sense at all. But I think it's pronounced TH, like th. So and then it also, you have Proto-Germanic thunraz, which is related to the Proto-Indo-European sten, meaning to thunder. It's like, I don't know how that's supposed to be, because when you get in these etymological, I don't understand the more technical when they give the technical word layouts, but it's like it's star parentheses S and then TENH. I'm not sure. The Latin term for thunder is tonare, which also means to thunder. And then, of course, you have Thor, Thunor, or Thunrian. Thunrian, the peanut butter. Yes, peanut butter is kind of a good way to look at it. I don't know. I often have to mull words over and over again, so I'm not going to worry about it too much at the moment. You have been Thunor struck. Cue the guitar solo. Oh boy. Yeah. Sometimes, I always look for these older words. I really like seeing these Indo-European roots. I think those are really cool. Or in this case, Proto-Indo-European roots. But sometimes you just end up with like, hey, you know what? The English is fine. And sometimes they don't change very much. I was looking up bridge. And bridge goes back to a word, you go back and look at Old English and it's spelled differently, but essentially it's bridge. And it just turns out that as a word, bridge just hasn't changed very much, which is kind of cool. But then you don't get these great, you just go like, well, if I don't like bridge, then I can't go back to the root and try to come up with a different sort of fun play on bridge, because there isn't one. Unless you wanted to change it from DG to like DJ, I think it was at some point. Is there anything else I haven't shared in terms of what I've done? I don't think so. I think that's about it. And what do I need to do now? What we need before us, what we have before us. Brian Smith says, Bridge is the alligator of the lexicon, unchanged for centuries. Yes, the shark, the alligator, that creature that has been it's the fern. One cool thing I was thinking about, it's not in the stories, but I was thinking that the saurophages, connecting them to the storm giant in some way, that maybe the storm giant, amongst other things, also got the saurophages. Well, those they speak in bat speech, and they're essentially cousins to the humans. That I think one of the things that was, unfortunately for the saurophages, the sort of last nail in their coffin in terms of their standing in the valley, was that in him taking guises, or taking on a guise, and brought the saurophage to his side. And whenever the showdown there was, these final battles that the lion eventually wins, the saurophages were on the losing side of it. And therefore, there's a hatred of that the humans have a hatred for them. They hate them. In other words, the humans hate them, and some of it's unfair. Well, I mean, it's all kind of unfair, but at the same time, they were tricked by the more mischief by our friendly sorcerer giant. So we got the driver ants. Is there anything else? Let's see. So we had, in terms of our encounters, anything unaccounted for? We got our dragons sorted, werebears and warboars sorted. The dwarves, I think I lost track of where they were supposed to be, but they were supposed to be over here somewhere, I believe. But maybe I could move them down here, because I don't have anything really here. Humans. I got 22 peaks. 22 peaks is what I got right now, if I counted that correctly. So I'm wondering what to do with the dwarves. I don't think I'm going to have actual dwarves. Well, I don't know. Maybe I'll make some dwarf-ish kind of creatures. I'm not sure. I probably want to connect it to what's happening with the song. Maybe along with the song, there's been some tremors, and the tremors open things out. Tremors. Dragon was, oops, did I not? Oops, I put that in the wrong spot. Oh, that's why. Right. Tremors. Magical effects. A compulsive madness. Put the driver ants in parens. Sleeping dragon in parens. What has crawled out of the earth? Terrence says, just blend all the shorties. Gnorflings. Yes. Guarlings. Little guars. So I like the idea that there are certain things that the Song of the Mountain's doing, which I'm presuming is coming from ultimate source, is our friend the giant here. who maybe is trapped down there in some crevice, crack in the roots of the earth, so to speak, the roots of the mountains. Not sure. Can he get out? Probably not strong enough to get out yet, whatever that means, or doesn't want to get out yet. He's biding his time, maybe. But whatever he's doing has triggered this, or maybe, I don't know if it's something that he did it once and now it's happening, or it's something that he's triggering multiple times. Like he's doing something that's causing this pulse of whatever that we're calling the Song of the Mountains. Terrence likes the tiny Gwar-based society. If I had a lost 12th mountain, the 12th mountain, I probably could, Brian Smith. I could easily turn, say, that hill into a mountain. What is there? The men that went up a hill and came to the GM that went up a hill and came down a mountain. I could probably, yeah. But what would the table of mountains be for? Because since I want to use them as landmarks and things, I don't want them to be random. I don't want them to be random because I want to be able to say in things like look towards Thunder Mountain, or go to, I don't know, whatever these things are called, so that we can use them as a referencing thing. So I don't want them to precisely be just random names that either we come up with or we ask somebody up to come up with. A wandering mountain table. Where did this mountain come from? Oh, I see. Well, you see, if we're only one down, well, we were at 22. So you could just have, you could have what, a 2d12? No, or whatever the number would be, but just have some that just no song happens, or all the mountains are up. But I like what you're thinking. Terrence, exactly. Mountain not appearing on this table. I like where your head's at, and I like the idea of a. We'll definitely have to have a table of where the song. Table of song events, and we'll need effects, and then the mountain. Yep, I like that. But yeah, you could do I don't know, 2d12. I don't know. Would that get us 22? I think that would, right? 2d12 I think would get us 22. Something like that. I'm not sure. I have to do the 2d12 sounds about right, from 2 to 24. I think a 2d6 table only needs 11. Yeah. Yeah. So what am I going to do? So the other thing is I need to name, I got some castles I need to name, or towers if they're more like towers. I got some ruins I should probably name because they did have names, but I'll probably leave those for the smaller maps. Let's grab 2 peaks and make it a D20. We don't take the easy way out here, Brian Smith, even though that's probably valid, because it would be easy to scrap a couple of mountains. He would not miss anything. Like I could cut that one out, or cut that one out, or whatever, cut that one out, but never let it be said that I take the easy way out. Oh, 3d8 would make 22. Well, there you go. Though I probably would want to use something. I don't know. I'll figure out the dice. I'll keep the 3d8 in mind. So I think I probably want to have built in some no song kind of thing. Because then you could do it in one roll. Instead of rolling, is there a song? And then rolling which mountain the song's on. Maybe you could just roll once. That would say where the song is, and if there was a song. So I might want to use a bigger table so I could just put everything as options kind of, but I don't know. I'll figure it out. Oh my gosh, Ian, sorry to hear. Ian just said they had a player saying they're dropping out semi-permanently from their game tonight, down to 2. Well, my home game has been 2, and I've actually enjoyed 2. though it has caused things like we're on kind of a summer / new family post-pregnancy infant hiatus. So we have had to do those. But I have found 2 a perfectly good number, and I haven't really changed anything. I think I've mentioned before that I haven't changed the numbers really. I just let them know that hire staff up or take your chances. But you're not getting superpowers. I mean, my homebrew stuff's a little bit more powerful than your basic BX characters, but ultimately, it's not like they're super powered. I don't think they're powered as much as, say, what is it, Scarlet Heroes or whatever it does when you're playing solo. But I just say, hey man, you're gonna have to figure it out. So get your hirelings or play it smart, pick your challenges. I mean, I'm very wide open with what they can do whatever they want to do, so they don't have to take on dungeon delves that may just be too much for them if they're just going to run with 2. Like right now, or where we left off in the game, is they're just running with the 2 of them. They have no support group. So they have to be very careful with the challenges they take on because they don't have 4 or 5 hirelings. They just don't have the money to afford them yet. But in earlier incarnations, they did some dungeon delving. They did a lot of stuff, and they didn't. So there was really only one death, and that death was not caused by numerical superiority on part of the enemy. It was really caused by their own decision making and how they chose to play a certain situation. So it was eminently avoidable. It was not a case of, oh my gosh, there were 2 of us, we ran into 16 goblins and now we're dead. But I think 2, just in terms of a fun game for everybody, I think works well. Everyone gets tons of attention, tons of time. It's very easy to keep track of anybody because there's only 2. I think, no one on the flip side of kind of the being able to split your attention well. Like, I don't think people really you can't really feel too left out because there's nowhere to hide when you just have two players. And you only have to deal with 2 sets of viewpoints or desire. You're not going to get 5 people who want to do 3 different things. You just have the 2 of them. So as soon as they kind of work it out between them, go. I did like having the third person because I felt like the third person could kind of add, in a good way, a monkey wrench into the works. And this player was very, very good at creating, I don't know if on purpose, but creating these kind of fun twist and turn moments with the group, just kind of shaking them up a little bit. But ultimately, I think 2 is very good. I think that's one of the things that's we've gotten too ingrained with is the 4 or 5 man party like that, or person party. That's, you got to have 4 or 5. And certainly it's fun. If you have 4 and 5 engaged people, it's a lot of fun. But the more people you add in, the more chances that you get folks who don't see eye to eye, who aren't engaged, who, it's all kinds of differences. When you only have 2 or 3, it's a lot easier to have like a group that sort of is all on the same wavelength, just, by the nature. It's just the nature of things. So I would definitely wouldn't, it's bumming. It's always always a bummer to hear that someone's dropping out. But if everyone's comfortable, if you're comfortable with 2 and the other 2 players are comfortable with being with 2, I think it could be a lot of fun. Yeah, Heroes and Homebrew says they've been running with only 2 players for a while. It's both a blessing and a curse. The game moves quickly. It does. Ian says, going to see how it works out. Reaching out to a potential player, but hopefully they're still down to play with 2. Brian Smith says 2 players are great, goes great, and there's room for meaningful NPCs to RP. Magnus says they think 3 to 4 is a sweet spot and helps with scheduling too. Yeah, I think 3. I mean, I'm not going to say that 2 is maybe the best, because it definitely has some pluses and minuses. Because the one thing with 2 is as soon as one player misses, kind of stuck. That's why I did like 3. So with 3, it didn't actually work out that way all that much. But I think ideally, if you have 3 but 2 is your quorum, that would be really nice. Or 4 and 2 is your quorum, so that you can have some combination and you could still run. Because something that happened in my game is when one person couldn't make it, it's really hard for the other person to just go it alone. It's just then it gets, you're super, super dangerous in terms of unless you're at home, you're in, we're not playing West Marches style, so not always ending things in town where you can do other things. That might be something I would think about doing. I'd have to talk to them about it, but that might be an interesting wrinkle to say end back in town. Because if we end back in town or in a safe place and someone doesn't come, then maybe the other person can come and do kind of downtime-ish type things, social things. But if you're ending in the middle of a dungeon and then one person can't make it the next session, chances I'm not going to tell that one person, oh, we're quorum is one, we're going. That's too much of a hill to climb, I think. But I could definitely think you could do some things to structure your game so that you could make it more. But from that standpoint, 3 is nice because it feels like you have a little bit of a buffer. I'm just going to bend. Oh, interesting. I did wrong. Actually, let me just delete that. There we go. I'm going to bend this line up a bit. Let's see. Ian says one of their 2 remaining players is a little bit more of an audience member player, unfortunately. Okay. Yeah, that hurts. That hurts. Magnus says they played one-on-one, and that can be pretty fun. Yep. Yeah, I spent a lot of time when I was in high school. There was a bit of time, a large bit of time was me and one other person, and we would just take turns GMing. This is when we were playing. What were we playing? We were playing this mashup of Twilight 2000 and the Phaser Rip TSR Marvel game. And it was a fun. We had a blast. I mean, we were in high school, so we were goofs, but it was a lot of fun. But yeah, we just one person would GM, other one would run, and then we would switch, and that was fine. I thought it was absolutely doable. But it is. I would say it's definitely harder, playing with say 2. If that second player, like Ian mentions, is already kind of not, if they're a spectator type, because you really need on the player side kind of all hands on deck. I mean, not that I suppose you don't really need it because you could always have the one player who is into it, running it. The one who is more or less active and they're just in the lead, but then it's kind of like, well, why are you here as the other player sort of thing, right? You kind of want your players to be in on things, especially when you only have a couple, I think. Oh, Ian says they've done one-on-one. They think one-on-one is easier than 2 players. Interesting. I mean, I guess I suppose it could be. I could see where you might feel that way. Just in terms of there's the least amount of variables, one player. You really can what's the word I'm looking for? Collaborate on what the game is about, and what everything is, what everyone's doing, what's happening, because you just have one person. So that it really makes for a very collaborative experience. But I think I like having another person there, just in terms of just having it be a little variety, a little bit more. I don't know. Get more group stuff with having another person. But I could certainly see how you could say 1 is easier, especially if it's one like someone playing with their significant other or something. I think that can be a lot of fun. No, you can't have a single player as a spectator. That would be pretty boring. That would definitely be boring. No, it's not. Oh, wait, did I do that? No, it's not what I wanted to do. Can I move you out of the way? I think I can. Let me move you here so I can grab you. Move you down. Move you back. Put you back here. How's that? Okay. Here's the Homer says they're going to start having a backup game for each of their players when one can't make it. Yeah, that's something that I think West Marches does a good job with. It doesn't make much sense, much like the one-on-one time between sessions. It doesn't make as much sense with a lot of game types to do that, but one of the advantages are of having a kind of end in town and then have sort of a constant calendar is you can kind of encourage participation. You can do things, I would be happy to in my game if it's like, oh, I can't make it this week, but we're in town. And I can say, okay, so however many days are going to pass. And then this other player, even if it's just like maybe we won't actually game that day, but we could just talk about things they're doing or like research or some kind of interesting things. You have space for that without it taking up a bunch of time because everyone knows that time is just passing. Okay, I'm going to do this and it's going to take a little bit of time and I'm going to start this. And then when we play in 2 weeks or whatever it is, then great. I'll have done this thing that's kind of useful. And I think there's some really great possibilities of that sort of thing. I don't think it's a panacea for all things like sometimes I feel like it's thrown out there, but it's definitely has its place at depending on your game style. Brian Smith says the Troglodytes of Talaish sounds like a good adventure name. That's where they are centered. The Trogs, where are they again? I'll turn on the numbers. So the Trogs, which aka the Saurophages, are 11.5. So yep, they're right here. They are they are in the near Talaish. Yep. They are indeed. They're kind of over here in this in this sort of swamp where the swamps and the grasslands meet. The remnant of a remnant. All that's left from. I probably need a name for this war with the giant. I'm sure it's got to have a name. Oh, here's a homebrew. The Troglodytes of Talaish tour Europe in '93. They opened for Halloween on the Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 3 tour. Shout out to Halloween, Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 1. I actually never listened to Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 2, but I have very fond memories of Part 1 of that. Word associate for Thunderstorm. I did Thunder. Is there something good in there? Convection, tornado, hail, precipitation, monsoon. Spawn, dissipate, forecast, rage. I'm not seeing anything amazing in there, but I haven't found anything amazing anyway. The trough. Ooh, the anvil. Dun 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 dun. The name. Oh, I see. The name for the war. Yeah. Gotta be. It does have to be something kind of cool. I don't know what it would be. I mean, I don't know. I'd like to come up with something that at least, yes, to me sounds cool. Can't always sound the best, but I do like anvil. There's definitely one of the mountains. I'm just gonna work. I have my list. Anvil. I'm gonna work into one of the mountain names. That's too good. Like I have a lot of mining and mineral. Maybe it's got a flat peak. Something that has a flat peak. Torrent of Blood. Duel of the Thunderheads. Well, I don't know. I think the way this thing with this sorcerer giant goes is they're a storm giant in terms of where I got the inspiration from. They definitely still have a storm theme. I'm not sure exactly what his go-to was. I've got this kind of a little bit of a Sauron, manipulating both sides sort of thing going on, which is why I thought it would be cool if he brought those saurophages, those troglodytes, into the mix. And was hoping, I think, so if we were to graph out kind of what was the original plan, and these are the things that history has forgotten or is unknown, but we could think about is what was the original plan of attack that the giant had. Reisman says the El Nino War. The original plan of attack, I think, was that the giant was hoping to get the two kids, aka Bear and Boar, and then their father, the lion, to, have a battle of the three armies and just some kind of battle royale in which they would essentially destroy themselves, and then he could sweep in using his saurophages as his own army and kind of clean up the remnants, right? And sweep in and thereby take it, which I think could have worked. I think that's a plan that absolutely could have worked. He had worked very hard. He got most of the way there, but if in a romantic kind of notion, which I like, is the fact that in the end, the two sons, though, blood was shed and all this stuff, in the end, that confronted by their father and everything, they couldn't go through with it. And somewhere in there, maybe they discovered that the giant was waiting with his own army somewhere. Scouts spotted it, or who knows how it came about that the giant was waiting with his own army. And it's usually entails that information like that at the right time then forces the character to reprocess these things they hadn't realized that they were taken advantage of, like, oh, I've been a fool kind of thing, which, the spell, in other words, is broken. So that breaks the spell over the two brothers. There is another clash, but this time it's the remnant of all three of these armies versus the giant and the saurophages. And maybe there's some other, if I was writing the story about this, if this was the main story, there might be what other creatures might come out of the woodwork, whatever, some more massive sort of battle. And in the at the end of that battle, the forces of the lion and the bear and the boar are triumphant. The giant seeks to escape. Bear and boar chase after him, and those three are never seen again. But the lion himself is being wounded, and then it goes back to the story of he comes back, bequeaths on his deathbed, bequeaths the kingdom to his 7 daughters, and remakes. Suddenly, instead of having 1 kingdom, we have 7 kingdoms, and they've been that way ever since. And that's kind of the formative tale. Now, whether, like I said, whether it's a Romulus and Remus style myth or it's actual truth, is kind of it will be up to folks who play the system to figure out how much of this is true or not. I'm just trying to set a bunch of this groundwork. Here, as Homer says, the clash of Thunder and Fang. That's cool. What if the war was just referred to as the Tempest, the Great Tempest? That might work. That's a cool name too. Man, there's a lot of good names coming in. Brian Smith says they would guess the name of the war would be recounted and named from the POV of the bear, boar, lion people as they planned and participated in that. Yes, and it might also, I'm wondering if it all might also be named for what happened, because they don't, especially the people, the survivors, the folks who were left behind, they don't know what happened, right? And they don't know the whys and wherefores, but they know the main participants. That is symbolically, right? Their king, the lion, the bear, the boar, the giant. Presumably, some kind of, I definitely think using his powers of storms to affect the battlefield would certainly have been something he would have done. And then it could also be as kind of we went from the lion to the lionesses. Maybe that would be enter into the name too. And there might be multiple. Could also have multiple names. What it was known at first, what is known now. Right afterwards. In the beginning, it was known as the thunder. The thunder whatever war, or the squall, the tempest, the Great Tempest. but now it is known as something else. So that might be a nice, and it's another nice opportunity for world building, because you get to sort of express in a very brief way of how people's outlooks on the world have changed, or as it went from the Great Tempest, let's just say, or to I don't know, right? It would say something if it went from the Great Squall, or Squall, I think it's on the water, like it's on ocean. So maybe I don't know, Tempest. Anyway, whatever. It goes from the Great, say it's called the Great War. It goes from the Great War at the beginning, much like you go from the Great War to World War One. One sound, the first one is really a function of people looking at this and going, and they did not mean great as in this is amazing. They meant great as in kind of terrible, like, oh my gosh, this is it, there can only be one, because this is so horrible. And and it's like, nah, actually we can do more. So it goes from that to it's just the first of these world wars. So we get that change in perception from whether you were around it early when you called it the Great War, like there can only be one of these things, to, well, it may be terrible, but we can hold our beers. We're gonna top it. Magnus likes to plan with the flood because of its going back to sort of biblical and beyond tales from all over the world. So it's the ancient astronauts, and the Great Flood, and why everywhere all over the world has tales about it. Like good old Upnapishtim in Sumerian tales, as I think that's the original Noah. My man Upnapishtim surviving the Sumerian version of the flood. Yeah, and it'd be interesting, that starts sending me down rabbit holes. I'm thinking like, well, what happened to the river? Did the river play some role? I imagine I could probably put the battlefield, because that would be a good place for some barrows. Probably here. Maybe I'll change that cave to barrows. But maybe that's where the final battle took place. Or, yeah, I think I like that, because that way it explains sort of if what happened, the giants, and maybe he had stuff here. Maybe the giant had some lair over here, or that, that there was some workings of the giant here. Maybe that's what the ruins. Man, getting good ideas all over. What number? All right, so look at the ruins. Where did I put the numbers? Numbers. I need the numbers. Hex map. Numbers. Let's see, that's 6.5. Why did I say 6.4? Wait, did I get that right? 6.5. Where's 6.4? Well, 6.4 has one too, but I totally forgot 6.5. Ruins of the Giants' stronghold. Brian Smith says driver ants drilling massive drainage networks into the ground might be good. I mean, I guess if that's what they're doing, that would be good. I'm not convinced that's what they're doing. Though the driver ants are not, they're kind of way up here somewhere, so they're not really immediately threatening anybody. Where's the giant? I guess, did I have something with him? Anyway, I'll put it. The giant. It's his old stronghold was located near the Silvermere, and that is 6.4. Maybe one of the mountains is actually a Formian hill. Oh, that's interesting. Where? Let's see. Well, if I remember the dry variance 3.1 is over here. So it actually already is a hill. So it sure could be because they're way out in this corner. Maybe they're coming out here. Maybe they're dug. Should I put in some? You know, they're coming out here. They could be coming out a couple of places. Interestingly enough, here's the Herman says the flat top mountain could be from the peak being sheared off during the war. Oh, that's a good. That's a good. I like it. I'll make a note. Yeah, I don't know how much like big magic, because this is fairly, it's got kind of a fairy tale sort of vibe to it, but it's not super high magic. But I like that idea, but I don't know if there'll have been anything in the works. But we do have some wizards, so presumably maybe some of the wizards took sides also. That would have definitely been. I'll have to make a note of that because I definitely would have thought that the giant would have. Some of the wizards allied themselves with the giant, with him. Something Norse creation myth. Yes. Yes, exactly. What was that? Ymir the giant, right? That was the whole universe is created from Ymir. Yeah, I'm not going to go that far. So how do you guys feel, since you guys are active in here at the moment? So I might as well ask you before y'all vanish. If I get rid of the numbers, and let me get rid of the numbers again so you can see it. But then I have essentially each one of these parchmenty titles. There will be a section for each one of these that will have their section of the map enlarged, and then probably over there have things maybe numbered for what needs to be. So you don't even need that many numbered. I might even just use A, B, C, because for instance, if we go to, let's say we go to the East Fold, even if we move this out of the way, so we have this, you have the hex with the town, the hexes with the cities in them, the towns in them, don't need to be numbered because they are the things. So Leo Bridge doesn't need a number. That one doesn't need a number. These other three. So 4 of these don't need numbers. The stronghold won't need a number either because it'll also be named. So you really only have, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H for the other one, something like that. Would you find that sufficiently between having this overall map, then having the zoomed in map in that section, and having some lettering or something in that section? Would you find that sufficient? Because I really think for multiple reasons, not having the numbers in there makes the map a lot cleaner. It means I can add things like maybe I can throw in a name of this thing and I have space and it's not cutting anything out. So I kind of think that's what I want to do. But I'm willing to hear if people are like, no, got to have the numbers. I mean, I went through a lot of trouble to make the numbers. So I didn't delete them. I simply hid them because if you were here on stream when I went through numbering anything, that took a good 20 minutes. half an hour or so. So I don't want to, I'm not just going to get rid of it for no reason, but at the same time, I don't need to keep it just to keep it. I'm happy to look at it and say, yeah, you know, it served its purpose because I needed the numbering to go and do a lot of the stuff like generating the random stuff that I wanted to, but I maybe don't need them for the final product once I've got all the stuff kind of named. Yeah, I'm torn on the swooping names also. I kind of like them, and I know a lot of maps do that and have those. I'm not sure where I'm going to stand. I just wanted to have some way. They would only appear really in this way on this bigger map. On the smaller map, on the zoomed in map, they wouldn't be. It's you know, so push numbers to the individual big hexes and maybe use color or something for the named region. Well, I think since they're all basically self bordered by hexes, I don't that you know each region is one of these hexes. So I kind of think, especially if I put a key here like Iron Sink page whatever, or Silvermere page, you know, it has sort of you get the references, then I kind of feel like that's enough. That I don't need to color code it. But I might need to play with some. Oh, here's a home who likes the swooping names. Okay. They add artistic flair. Oh, like I definitely I like the vibe because yeah, it kind of adds that sort of art. Yeah, I think for me, I don't think of it in terms of artistic, though I appreciate it. I was just thinking more of that's something you see in a lot of maps. Though granted, a lot of real maps get super busy and super crazy. So I didn't want to do that with everything, but I just wanted you to be able to see it, at least on this map. And then, you know, zoomed in, I would have the names of individual mountains and things. It would be kind of different. Do something a little different. Flair. Yes, flair. Flair is good. All right, cool. Yeah, I'll just need to figure out how to do the masking. Because I said this at the beginning. This is not a flat map. All these layers and everything, all these symbols are all individually placed within this document, which is great for as I'm mucking about with things and I might want to change them around. But at the same time, it means that I just don't know, like especially for things like these rivers that is one shape that goes through a bunch of these. I don't know how to. I'm gonna have to mess around with it. I foresee a lot of, and I don't have the hexes. Probably if I was smart, I would have figured out ways to group everything and put them in layers as each hex, bigger hex, smaller hex. But you know, this is from an organizational standpoint. This map is an absolute disaster. So now that I'm trying to look at doing kind of more advanced, air quotes, advanced stuff with it, it's the shortcomings in how I organized it or lack thereof are coming to the fore. Right now, these titles are only at 25%. I think I'm going to leave them as there's now, at least for now, while I might want to look at them. But it might be something I could print. I could print up some. Like, I don't think it's a big deal on a say a PDF looking at digitally. Maybe if someone were printing it. I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know what the. I imagine as long as some ink is on the page, your printer will at least attempt to print it, but I don't know. The river name. Yeah, that one I could see that one being hard. It's difficult because I could make it really small and fit it within the borders of the river. But it's one of those things that I'm trying to balance between having it not overlap these other things. So I end up with it being, I could probably add some sort of background, but I don't want to make it too, I don't know. Well, I can see what you're saying. Because it is light and there's a lot of, I think having all those wavy lines, a bunch of dark wavy lines going through it doesn't help. And I'm sure that I'm fooled a little bit in terms of looking at it as more readable because I know what the word is. So it's like, oh yeah, that's I know that word. But if you don't know the word, then it's more of a mess. Do the waters 25% fill? Yeah, that's again because I have to look and see how this shape works because right now it's just lines. I don't even think this is one line. I might be able to group it and fill it. I did that for the thundercloud to give it a white as opposed to a transparent background. I don't know. These are things where it starts to run up against the limits of my experience in Affinity because this is really the first large scale designy thing I've done in Affinity. I think the good thing about this is I think I've certainly proven for myself, maybe not for other people's workflows, that you can make, if you don't want to use Worldographer, if you don't want to use some of the other hex maps, you find them wanting for one reason or another, totally doable to make some quickie symbols and put some hexes down and create a hex map. And the nice thing is you can make it exactly of the size you want with the subdivisions that you want, all that stuff as you want. It's something like Affinity, and it is very flexible because here I am bringing into the desktop publishing part of it where I'm laying it out and I have access to all the underlying vectors, and it's all vectors. So I can blow it up, shrink it. It's all good in the hood. But if you're just looking to do a map quickly or randomly generate something, then this is not going to help you at all. But for other purposes, it might work. Oh, right. I suppose I should talk about that. So yes. So on a totally different note, let me pull it up. Let's see. All right, I actually had it up here. So yeah, I'm going to be working with the Dungeons Key on on a conversion of their Morkborg adventure, Kavlov's Sanctuary. And this came up, I guess we started talking about it, or maybe has it been a month already? I'm not sure. But yeah, he approached me. He kickstarted the Morkborg edition. He's been selling that, and now he's interested in not branching off, but then doing an OSE conversion. And he's someone who follows the channel, and so he reached out and asked if I'd be interested, and I was. So we kind of hashed out the details, and we're working on it. So I'll be, and we're going to have, when the Kickstarter launches, I think there's going to be some stretch goals where I'm going to create some new stuff for it, as well as the conversions of the existing stuff. There's going to be, this is a new cover design, but there's going to be a lot of stuff that I think he's still working on and figuring out for, things like, how it's going to be stretch goals and whatever, right? But, the bottom line is working on the OSE conversion stuff. It's going to be interesting. Going from, obviously, I didn't say obviously, but I'm definitely comfortable with the old school essentials part, and I played a little bit of Morkborg, and I own the book and everything. But it's definitely going into it now, the guts of looking at these, and I'll probably do some of it on stream too. As I have his total. He was like, "Hey, whatever you want to do, if you want to work on stream, you're welcome to." So I'll probably will do that. Maybe starting next week. I'm not sure exactly, but I'll probably have some streams where I'm doing that stuff. But it's definitely interesting. It's because Morkborg characters are built differently than old school essentials, and I don't know, it's something that you really appreciate until, because you're just playing one game, you're playing the others. You don't think about, well, what if this was in that game? But then when I'm in it and now we're going, well, how do we put this in that game? It becomes some interesting situations. We're on the one hand, I think we're trying to do several things. We want to be mindful of how old school essentials and BX to a degree do things. So we're not trying to really customize old school essentials too much. At the same time, there's ways that kind of the Morkborg characters work sort of flavor wise that we want to kind of keep. So we're trying to find that middle ground between making it so it's not super outside of old school essentials, how kind of old school essentials things work, but at the same time keeping the flavor of the Morkborg stuff. And some of that where that surfaces is the Morkborg, like there's a bunch of powers and things, abilities that these Morkborg characters get, which is in line with what characters in the Morkborg core books get. But I think the lifespan of a Morkborg character is not as long as, not necessarily what a OSE character is in reality, because it's as easy to die in Old School Essentials as is in Morkborg. But in terms of thinking through their whole progression, if folks make it all the way to the end, what that kind of expectations of what your character will be like in Old School Essentials is kind of different. Morkborg plays it really loosey goosey. Like a lot of the characters, I think, have something where basically they'll get a bunch of powers listed, and you'll get up to 2 of them. I think sometimes I don't know if you have to roll randomly or you can roll randomly, and then a lot of them they'll say, okay, once you've got like the first 2 levels, you've got these 2 powers. Now, every time you level, you can kind of roll and swap them out. Like it's just kind of like, and it's interesting and fun, but I think it works more for a loosey-goosey sort of, kind of more gonzo game. If suddenly you don't really care, you're not thinking about, well, I used to have this magic and this kind of power to do this thing, but now I've decided I have this other power to do something else, and I don't know how to do that thing, but then next level I might switch back. I might get 2 whole new powers. I might keep one and re-roll one. There's all this kind of variance. And it's fun and sort of, and I think at Morkborg type, it might not be quite as much in an OSE style type game. So trying to figure out, well, how do we figure that out? How do we balance it? And my part of what I'm doing is in giving more powers, but having it more in a BX style progression. So maybe instead of just only having 2 powers, sort of randomly picking them every level, you're going to have 4 powers, but you're going to get that 4th power, at 8th, 9th, 10th level. They're going to be staggered a bit more than just your first 2 levels, you get 2, and then it's just sweepy swappy all the way through, stuff like that. And, we're trying to lean on stuff that's already been done. So if we're looking at something else, that looks an awful lot kind of like would have from sort of a thieves skills kind of progression and using percentile dice. Oh, well, okay, great, we're going to do that. Oh, this looks like something that's more spelly, spellish, because Morkborg, their magic system is different as well. It doesn't have conventional spells in the same way. Then, we're doing that. Or, this looks like kind of a cleric turntable sort of situation. We're doing that. So we're trying to rely on what's already there, but build out some characters. They're going to be different. They're, certainly in terms of pulling the characters out of this kind of setting and dropping it into, say, a vanilla OSE game. Maybe they wouldn't work. It'd be a lot of fun. They might, they're going to be the power levels. I think it's just going to be different. And it's hard. It's hard to avoid in some ways, because part of that is just all in the flavor. And so you get some stuff that maybe is a bit more powered than you would get normally. But they're not really any more survivable in the sense of everyone could die on their first hit in their first battle. So from that standpoint, not too bad, but it's really fun. It's going to be really fun. It has been really fun, and it's going to continue to be really fun. DJ Cleric Turntable. So yeah, and the Kickstarter. So, well, a couple things. I'm going to be doing an actual play, I think actually next week. So I should probably start about that. We're going to do an actual play. We're going to run through some bits of the module that we will already have converted. And then that's coming, I think next week. And then the Kickstarter coming in August. Now I'm hoping, we sort of went back and forth in this because we had already had somewhat of the date in August in mind for a little while now, and then Necrotic Gnome came out of the woodwork and just said August whatever, Old School Essentials, or no, Dolmen Wood's coming out. So we decided just to stick with our original date and hope that maybe Dolmen Wood will get more people thinking about Old School Essentials. We'll get more people checking out Kickstarter. And so actually that kind of the raising the water level, right? With the water level rising lifts all boats kind of thing. And instead of trying to dodge it and wait, because for various reasons, we kind of have this window where we want to hit. But that's that. Thanks, Brian, for asking, because then I got to mention about it, which, I forgot that put that out on Saturday and haven't had a chance to really revisit it. So look for more. There'll be a bunch more stuff coming. And I think once once we kind of get at least the preview for the Kickstarter up and running, I'll probably talk about it more. I just want to make sure that folks who are interested will have someplace to go on Kickstarter and kind of get notified. Because I feel like the more boundaries or things you put between people, that they're less likely to follow it all the way through. So I'm kind of been waiting. So when we get that kind of at least that launch page or pre-launch page or whatever it is that's on Kickstarter, so at least we can send people over there and they can bookmark it, whatever. Have the easiest way to do it before the actual launch comes. Well, I guess on that note, I'm going to call this one a stream. I will probably be working more on this. Well, I'll work on more on this afternoon myself, but probably come back to it tomorrow. I think I'm going to share this. So channel members, patrons, I think I'm getting close to at least sharing this larger map with you, giving you a version you can just kind of have just if you just want to look at it or do whatever. And then I'm going to have to figure out how to do these because I'm about ready to get to the smaller versions, which means I'm going to need to figure out how to, I don't know if I just need to duplicate everything and mask it or what, but there's going to be some interesting things going on there. All right, folks. With that, if you can give a thumbs up on your way out, that'll be awesome. If you found yourself in here and you're not subscribed to the channel and you feel like subscribing, that'll also be awesome. Otherwise, folks, have a great rest of your day, night, whenever you end up watching or listening to this. Game on, everybody, and I will talk to you later. Bye now.